Technical workshop, so it's not for a large crowd. And I've attended a series of these. This time last week, Wednesday, I was at Lagos State University, where I delivered the distinguished inaugural lecture. And we had audience of coming all the way from UK to come and do this. They were asking for my CV, and I told them, look, then we deliver lecture, the whole thing is gone. I don't believe in all those pressing my own is make my contribution and go. But once I leave, the zonal commander from Osogbo and 6 other officers will be around. He said I should limit them. If not, I wanted to come with 100 people, and these years will not take them. He said, come Marshal, please reduce the number. That's why you've seen this. But let me commend you for this technical workshop. We need more of this. This is, when you do this, is to really, like one of my professors taught me at National Institute, you interrogate the subject. You look at it from technical professional experiences with global practices. So whatever we are presenting can be married with the intellectual frameworks and get to a conclusion. I could see the regular inspection officers from Oyo State here. I will talk about them later on. They need assistance. I thought the governor would be here because I'm just trying to get an appointment to see the governor by the end of the month or early next month. That's one area that the state government needs to focus. The capacity of the vehicle inspection officers needs to be improved upon. Other states have commenced what we call the electronic vehicle inspection system. The government needs to provide the instruments to operate. Globally, systems are changing. So it's not business as usual the way things are being done. So whatever your conclusion, you must note the issue for government to move into the electronic vehicle inspection system. You must do the best application when it comes to driver's testing, with theoretical approach before testing and all these things. And the key issue has to do more with the vision acuity test too. And even the traffic regulations made provisions for medical fitness. There must be a medical certificate. These are all the things in the law. They are not new things. So that's why sometimes I see what I call a perennial malady in the country when we raise some issues and people think they are fresh issues. They are none of fresh issues. Even the emotional psychological tests we are doing, the law is very clear there that these things must be done. So, and if you are for trucking, all these things ought to be done periodically. So but when we raise some things to the front burner, people think they are not, but a lot of things is required. You gave me a wide topic to come and speak on overview of road safety in Africa with case study of Nigeria. Anyway, I believe we just create the time and just work on this. And I find it really a privilege to be here for Dr. Taiwo to track me down all the way. At the issue of overview of road safety, when you are looking at the road safety, it's multi-sectoral. And I'm happy we have Professor Agbede here, civil engineering, from Department of Civil Engineering. And it's a lot of things. When you are looking at road safety, you'll be talking about engineering aspects, you'll be talking about transportation, we're talking about mechanical. So they are all, in academics too, is multi-departmental. Then at the governmental level too, is multi-sectoral. And now also, the issues I dwelt much last week, the issue of intermodal transportation system too. I will discuss this because this is a technical issue. So I will make it as broad as possible. And I strongly believe that you can see this. I will speak to the slides. I don't read address. And we all know that road safety concerns is a critical issue. And when you look at the issue of road safety, we have a lot of role to play. But first, we must acknowledge what Mr. President has done and the previous governments and government of Nigeria. Because before it got to the global level, the concerns, before you may have to increase my voice is very deep. So either you increase the treble or you increase the volume. If not, you will not hear me again if I raise it up much. So the issue of road safety, you see now. So it's a critical issue. We must appreciate the government that road safety was set up in 1988 before the United Nations Decade of Action for Road Safety 2011 to 2020 was proclaimed by the global body United Nations. And that is one plus that you must give to the government. And when you look at the issue of United Nations Decade of Action for Road Safety and the 5 pillars, it's all encompassing dealing with the road safety management, dealing with safer roads, safer vehicles, safer pedestrians and post-crash. It's all encompassing tackling the issue of road safety management. It's a global concern, and Africa is responsible for 1/4 of the whole fatalities and deaths in the 5 continents. Africa accounts for 1/4 of the whole thing. And the reason why Africa accounts for this is that when you look at the issue of mobility, 90% of our mobility is by road. So that is why towards the end, we dwell more on intermodal, which we must focus, even at this ENCA workshop, to encourage government. Like Oyo State here, I think government can still deal with the rail and the road, which here, they don't have waters to navigate there. So with this concern globally, the African picture presents one of the key issues that needs to be handled. And when you look at that slide, it was the issue of the second Road Safety Conference. Now, we're talking about the UN Decade of Action for Road Safety 2011 to 2020. By February next year, there will be a concluding international conference on the 3rd International Conference on Road Safety, the close-up of the UN Decade of Action for Road Safety. And again, when you see the participation of African countries at the global level, it's a very sad development. And because of the perennial increase in road traffic crashes, the global body transferred the issue of road safety. It became a major health concern. I think I'm on slide 2. It became a major health concern. If you look at all the global reports, on the World Report on Road Traffic Injuries Prevention, Global Status Report on Road Safety 2013, Global Status Report on Road Safety 2015, and the one released early this year, Global Status Report on Road Safety. These are reports you can easily download it, you can read it online. It's released by WHO. And when the UN Decade of Action for Road Safety 2011 to 2020 started, the annual death was 1.25. I was privileged to be in Stockholm about 3 weeks ago for the last stage planning of the 3rd International Conference. And you can see the number of deaths has risen to 1.35. So it's not only a continental problem, it's a global problem. Why? The vehicular population is increasing. More technologies are coming in that are failing. Every day we go through the website, we see a lot of vehicles being recalled. The manufacturers are recalling vehicles in thousands because of one defect or the other. And I can also see the air transportation. New aircraft being produced is failing. Then even you see the issue of what happened in Turin, Italy, early this week, when a cruise ship failed and almost crashed completely because of the storm. The captain lost control. So it shows, and even you look at the railing is becoming a norm, especially in Asia. And my greatest worry now in China, where the speed of the train now is almost past the speed of light, moving and even becoming much faster. If you go online, you will see the speed of the train now is matching the speed of the aircraft when it's cruising. And the aircraft cruises when it's at about 40,000 feet above sea level. The aircraft is cruising at about 980 kilometers per hour. So, and they're now designing. So any small negligence like this, that is why the fatality is increasing. So road safety has become a global problem. And like I said earlier on, in 2013, Africa was most hit, and it has remained so, accounting for 24.1 deaths per 100,000 population with the road safety score. If you look at the other continents, the Western Pacific is 18.5, and this is aggregate. If you look at some countries like South Africa, you look at Tunisia, Algeria, Morocco, but the aggregate for Africa is what we are seeing, and it has remained like this, accounting for 25% of the global concerns. And the direct and long-term effects are negative on the general development. And the age bracket of mostly those involved is between 18 and 45 years old. And from that year to 2016, like I said, Africa remains the region with the highest road traffic. That is 26.6 deaths per 100,000 population. And when you put this on severity weight index, it becomes a different dimension. And if you look at that graph now produced by the WHO, Africa remains the highest there, followed by the Americans, the Eastern Mediterranean, and Europe. And when we are talking about Africa, we only talk about the sub-Saharan Africa, because the North African countries believe they are migratory states. So when you look at it, that's why they said the Eastern Mediterranean, like that, and we work like that. Then let's go to the next slide, the economic and social economic indicators of the continent. Africa is a resource-rich continent, but it's not yet tapped, with a population of 1.307 billion and the GDP of 2.19 trillion. That's as per 2017 nominal growth, and the growth of 3.7%. That's the average. But every day in Africa, we have average of 650 deaths occur. Even this one is as per the statement of the WHO that not all the crashes are being reported. It is when it comes to data management and administration, Africa is worst hit when it comes to the issue of our data. And we lose about 0.0657 trillion. That's 3% of GDP. And there's a difference between GDP and GNP. Gross domestic product is different from gross national product. And this slows down. The GDP growth is slowed down due to rate of crashes occasioned by crashes of the ages of 15 to 29. Most people that are dying, even we now see the children, some of them are fully involved in this, they are dying at the unripe age. Despite the challenges confronting road safety in the continent, there has been centralized and decentralized efforts. The latest one is the global efforts of the United Nations Decade of Action for Road Safety 2011 to 2020, of which we just have a few more, less than 1 year. This is July now. We just have 5 months, 7 months to the end of this. And because of the challenges and gaps and peculiarities, member countries have had the opportunity to adopt certain affordable and efficient policies. The first one was the one I spoke about concerning the government of Federal Republic of Nigeria that in 1988 set up road safety there. And we believe that the recent improvements in some of the respect of the enactment of effective laws and regulations, sustainable funding, setting of targets, and the development of road safety standards, alignment with international conventions. That's the critical one, which member countries have not really done, and development of national road safety strategy. These are critical issues that we really need to look at. What are the interventions? We look at this, the issue of global road safety partnership, the Sub-Saharan African Transport Program, and African Development Bank. These three agencies, the GRSP and SSCTP, they are both organs of the World Bank, the Transport Division. The SSCTP deals in steering road safety leadership and capacity building. I'm privileged to be a lead facilitator for World Bank on this. We've been trying to train the eggs of road safety in Africa. We've had 2 sessions now. The first one was in Dakar last year. The second one was in Abidjan, and the third one is coming up in the last week of this month in Johannesburg. So this is capacity building, because when you are dealing with World Bank dwells much on capacity building of agencies before funds are released. On the Global Road Safety Partnership, it has to do with providing global partnership for road safety interconnectivity. And I'm happy that African Development Bank has woken up now. They are providing support. I've attended 3 of the sessions of ADB. Now Nigeria is going to be one of the regional centers for excellence at our academy. I will still discuss more on that, because I haven't seen the potentials and the leadership role of Nigeria in terms of road safety management, because in percent must be for road safety enhancement. The essence of this is the World Bank contributions towards the UN Decade of Action, and it becomes a continuous matter that setting aside any project, 10% of it is for road safety enhancement. And Nigeria happens to be one of the first beneficiaries of this new World Bank policy, when the World Bank gave $330 million loan to Nigeria for the road sector improvement. Automatically, the 10% of this road project was for road safety enhancement. So 10% of this was given to FRSC. then 10 million, that was $10 million. As at that time, I think it was about 2 billion naira. So it's not much, just a small money. And because you'll be smiling, road safety is highly capital intensive. You don't know the gravity of this technical workshop today. When you hear billions and you are looking at road safety, it's a drop. Even when you are looking at 1 trillion, it's a drop. Let me give you a simple example. The patrol bikes we are using, direct procurement from BMW, landing cost in Nigeria is 17 million. BMW bikes are more expensive than cars. The tire of the BMW is 168,000. That will buy the 4 tires of a private vehicle. So if I'm to buy 10 bikes, that is 170 million. If I'm to buy 100 bikes, that will be 1.7 billion. So when you hear billions, it's a drop. And when you look at the patrol cars and the accessories, to put a patrol car fully on the road, it costs about 15 million. So when you buy 10, that's 150 million. When you buy 20, that's 300 million. So by the time you say you are buying 100, that's about 1.5 billion. So you see all the billions are gone just on 2 components. So that is the major problem. Road safety is highly capital intensive. That's when we are talking about the budget of road safety, it's supposed to be 1 trillion minimum. And the tow trucks we deploy on the road, all these things I'm saying, these are direct procurement prices from the manufacturers, not through a contractor. For a heavy-duty 70-ton tow truck, it's about 240 million, the landing. So if you hear about 1 billion, 1 billion will only buy 4. So road safety is highly capital intensive. So when World Bank gives just 2 billion naira to this kind of thing, it's still a great contribution in terms of capital assets. But again, it's a way forward, but government of each member nations need to become more serious. And it's not something that can be achieved over a day. The end result, the dividends of the investment in road safety is safer roads, fuller lives. That means at the end of the year, you must see a trend that road traffic crashes is trending, fatalities reducing, because when you're looking at the population of Nigeria, as per the latest data released by the National Population Commission, the population of Nigeria is 201 million. We are growing exponentially. The death rate is reducing, the birth rate is increasing, so there is a gap. And the major problem in Nigeria today is that the infrastructure cannot match the growth rate. And when I talk generally about the infrastructural system of the economy, it cannot. Why are we having traffic congestion? Why are we having gridlock? Because the road network cannot carry the load again. People are complaining the economy is bad, but yet vehicle registration is increasing. More people are obtaining driver's license, yet economy is bad. And I ask the question, when the economy is good, what will happen? That will be an explosion of the highest order. In Yoruba, they said, Arababaoya, Ekonwole, Wenjade. The man is not well, and he's finishing 8 wraps of Akamu. And Moin is finishing 5 wraps. Then when the man is well, what will he eat? He will eat times 5 of the thing. So the economy is growing. It may be at a slower rate, but when you are looking at the economic indices of growth, it's the aggregate, but it's not as bad. So, and why vehicular density is increasing? We have 12.5 million vehicles to a population of 201, a road network of 204,000 kilometers, of which the federal road is about 36,000 kilometers, and the local government road is 129,000. We have a problem because the 2 lanes of the 70s are still the 2 lanes of 2 decades, 3 decades after. So it becomes a problem. So the road network cannot contain the capacity again, and there's no room for expansion. And where there's room for expansion, the fund availability is not there. Because the existing road network itself is not being properly maintained, it becomes a major problem to both federal, state, and local government. Because if the federal road is 36, those are the interstate roads. That is most traveled. That is why we record most of the fatalities, because the state roads are more urban roads and part of it on paved roads, whereas local government is just about 10-20% of paved roads and the rest on paved roads, dusty roads. But the issue again, as per the World Bank, something on RAMP, Road Access Mobility Program, is to make, even if it's a rural road, make it accessible. Even if it's unpaved, let there be drainage so that it is accessible. For economy to grow, the council road, local government council road must be accessible so that the products, the farm produce, can get to the city. If not, it's useless. And that's the major problem with farmers. So when we look at this, the World Bank came with the concept of the Safe Corridor projects. 6 corridors were handled by World Bank, which became a model, and that was why the country was then partitioned into 8 corridors at the end of the day. Now you saw the officer introduce himself as Corridor Commander 1. We have, that is why we have to adapt. When World Bank finished their own intervention in Nigeria by the end of 30th of June 2017, we have to adapt the World Bank concept on road safety management, the corridor conceptions. So World Bank worked on 5 corridors in Nigeria and made them into be a kind of case study for road safety, fully equipped with patrol cars, ambulances. That is Mokwa Suleja, Mokwa Bida Suleja, then Abuja Kaduna Kano Road, then Enugu Abakaliki up to the border with Cameroon 4, and just bypass to Bauchi to Gombe, and supposed to be extended to Peel. But African Development Bank has just taken over that one now. Then Benin bypass, from Benin bypass to Ifon, Akure, and Ilesha. Those are the things the World Bank did, and capacity building too. So if all countries can dedicate 10% of the fund earmarked for road construction to road safety enhancement, it will be much better, because it's a road safety management is a long-term approach. You cannot get results in short term. It takes years to construct the road. It takes years to build capacity. Part of this technical workshop today is that you are developing the capacity of the participants so that they can see the extent of which road safety can go. And because of that, also you look at the issue of the regional constructive approaches which have been adopted. We're talking about the issue of the PRI, that is International Road Safety Organization, and the West African Road Organization in respect of this. As a concrete step towards the road safety improvement on this continent, the lead agency council were recommended to provide a strategic framework on achieving national road safety objectives. And in Africa and some countries, they have put in place lead agencies. That is one of the pillar 1, which I mentioned on the UN Decade of Action for Road Safety 2011 to 2020. Pillar 1 is for all member states. That is, we are talking about 210 member states of our United Nations to have a lead agency that will tackle only road safety. We've seen a lot of improvement on this in Africa, and West Africa is not doing badly. We are doing well in this. And apart from that, as per pillar 1, all members are supposed to have a strategy document on this. Nigeria too, we must give the commendation to Mr. President. When he came on board, this was one of the key issues that the National Economic Council approved, and we're on the version 2 now, which hopefully before the end of September, it should be released. That's supposed to be 2019 to 2023. Now, the funding of road safety, I've mentioned it. In some places, it's funded through Ministry of Transport and Police. However, the FRSC is funded directly from budgetary provision. We must give kudos to the government since 1988. And the last 4 years, we have seen a lot of improvements in budgetary releases. But when you look at the value of Naira, when you hear billions and you divide it, there was a time that 1 Naira was equivalent to $1 was equivalent to 74 kobo. But if you have, to those who are traveling in the 70s, if you go back and if you are keeping your international passport and you go back and look at it now, you know when you go to bank then to buy traveler's check, they will stamp the back of your passport. If you look at it, I hope you don't have hypertension, because $1 then was 74 kobo. Then at that time, £1 was 1 Naira 20 kobo. But now you see the value of Naira is $1 to 360 and £1 to 470. And so when we have 1 million, at that time 1 million will give you about £6,000. But 1 million will hardly roughly give you about £2,000 plus now. It was just roughly £2,000. So it shows the level. So that is to retune our mind when we are hearing about billions and co. Multiply it with the prevailing equivalent, and you see, because most of these things on road safety, they are foreign based. They are not things that you can provide locally. And that is one key issue we are having today. We are talking about the number plates, the substrate required, and the sheeting. There's no company producing them in Nigeria. And the cost, we are running at a loss in terms of number plates. And by fire by force, we must increase the prices of number plates and driver's license. everybody must be ready to pay twice the amount, because when the scheme started, the exchange was 160. Presently, the same rate now is at 360. So that's a 200 naira increase. So we just have no choice. We must increase it. And the Joint Tax Board must accept the price increase, so that before the end of the year, we must go into this. You look at the budgetary provision of government of 8.61 trillion. The core is being funded. We must commend the government that even road safety is being funded very well on this. And when you look at the strategic plans which have been developed by member nations, these to achieve and progressively targeted road safety reduction. And some of these plans, I remember the Accra Declaration of 2007 to 2015. The same target was to reduce fatality by 50% before the UN Decade of Action for Road Safety that said by the year 2020, you should have reduced fatalities. They don't talk about crashes. You can have 20 crashes. The focus is to reduce fatalities. Fatalities means reducing the number of deaths. What is the number of deaths? Number of people being killed. Who are the people being killed? People being eliminated, that is not living again. So that is the focus, to reduce fatalities in respect of this. Then the third one has to do with the African Road Safety Action Plan. This is just a derivation from the UN Decade of Action for Road Safety. Ladies and gentlemen, the latest one has to do with Road Safety Observatory, which was launched in Durban 2 weeks ago. And Nigeria also has its own road safety. We call it dashboard, but we are now renaming it to be National Road Safety Observatory. When you look at the global level, we are doing well. We may not get to the expected level, but when we look at our performance indices and the severity weight index, we are not doing badly. But you just need more encouragement. Technical workshops like these in different parts of the country, bringing in top government officials to see why the funding of road safety and the policies of road safety must be sustained, must be improved upon. And the Act of the Road Safety has been amended, just awaiting the access of the President. That means all this issue of use of phone while driving, you will pay 100,000, 50,000 when you use phone and you are caught. When you use your salary to pay for a fine, you will not do that again, because penalties have to serve as deterrent. That's why laws are made. You know, when you have children at home, when the children misbehave, you spank the child. Why you spank it is to stop that bad habit. And if it's done again, you give him double spanking, papa, then he will know. I say, if you do it again, I will use kopoko. So that's the essence of fines. So to me, I commend the Lagos State government. When you pay 200,000 fine for driving against traffic, you won't try it again. Because for some people, that's your 3 months salary. So when you use your salary for 3 months, your wife will wait for you by the door when you are coming and you don't have salary. Then you won't be able to tell you to go back to where you are coming from, because an hungry man is an angry man. So you look at road safety at national levels. The WHO case in the global report recognizes that progress has been recorded over the years, but yet from 2011 the deaths were 1.25 million, and as at 2 months ago it's now 1.35. It shows that's a global problem. That means, to my professors, with due respect, if you see a problem that you set a target, and instead of the target reducing and it's increasing, that means the methodology must be changed. Abisa, Eshisa. So, and Nigeria is one of the few nations that we have made remarkable progress. But again, people, the citizens, they believe we need to do more, and I agree. I've given you the conceptual framework about funding. In personnel, the personnel is increasing, and I expect before I finish my tenure, we should have hit the stake of 30,000. We're about 26,000 now. So I believe if you need more personnel, we do that. Vehicular density is increasing. The road network cannot take it, because right now we're supposed to have a lot of flyovers. The perennial problem of the whole road is supposed to have a flyover from that airport junction, or you have another bypass from Ogumaki to link Ife straight. So if you are going to Lagos, you have no business in Ibadan. But all these things are the master plan that have not been executed. So unless there is expansion, a trip that's supposed to take you 45 minutes, you must put in 2 hours. And bad maintenance policies that inadequate funding has not allowed FEMA, Federal Ministry of Works, to do their, and that is why the lifespan of Nigerians is shortened. When it takes you in Ibadan, there's not much problem. Under 1 hour, you get to your offices. But in places like Lagos, it takes you 4 hours to get to work. You wake up at 4 o'clock. Productivity cannot be measured in Nigeria with the present socio-economic default. Because if it takes you 4 hours to get to your office, you cannot be productive for the first 2 hours if you have driven the vehicle. Because the stress on you, your mental system cannot yet readjust because you are already stressed. And by the time you close again, it takes you another 4 hours to get home. You'll be getting home around 11 p.m., 8 p.m. And then to leave home at 4, you must wake up at 3. So you sleep for 3 hours. So you cannot be productive. And Saturdays and Sundays too is social. So people, Nigerians don't rest. That is why our lifespan, that 51, we need to watch it. And why is it that our grandfathers and our parents are busting 100, 95, and our colleagues are dying? Because the stress involved in our production, in our productivity today, is not what we can measure. So it got to a level I said, look, with the present level, you cannot, it's better you step down the idea of productivity measurement. Because if all the indices required to measure are not put in place, are not giving us the desired result, there's no way we can measure this. So that is one of the things, of the problems in urbanizations. And except the intermodal, which we discuss soon, comes in. I've spoken about the government efforts. I don't need to waste much slide on it again. The next slide just spoke about the critical issues we know about road traffic crashes. There is nobody that will not know that is the human system, the mechanical and environmental. And human system is responsible for 81% of this. Then from the human error, we look at the issue of drinking and driving. There's a difference between drink driving. They will, and my professors will speak more on this. And the speed, the issue of speed, and the issue of motorcycle elements. And when people start having the crash element, somebody has won, and you wear it will disappear, it gives me a kind of extrinsic disorder. That is a lost value. When people say that you wear one safety element, somebody else, you will disappear. You sit on somebody's chair, you just disappear. I said, how have we deteriorated to this level? As if everybody you don't know what is coming. So we say, because there's a problem. Then seat belts too, the issue of seat belt. People know many lives, we have testimonies today that many lives have been saved on the issue of seat belt usage. That is why it's a success story in Nigeria today when it comes to seat belt. At least when we are looking at the measuring the performance of RSC, seat belt is one area. I was privileged to be the director of operations then in 2003. I just woke up one day, I finished reading the global report, and I said, we need to enforce this. I just issued a circular to all the commands, June 2002, and I gave 6 months public education, and I decreed that by 1st of January 2003, we should commence enforcement of seatbelt. Today is a success story. In the last few years, we've been having a problem with the rear seatbelts, and we've seen so many lives lost. When there's a tire blowout, they are thrown out of the vehicle. We've seen a lot of things. So that was why we, as per the law, we make it compulsory. Let me go back to the issue of this off-road driving. What does the law say? I have some lawyers here. Even the man standing behind me here is a lawyer. They always quarrel in the vehicle. The law says use of four-wheel driving. Whether you are using earpiece, headphone, whether you are using speaker, is a distraction. The law is very clear. That one, 100,000, once Mr. President signs, you must pay. You will not use it, but you are allowed to use the Google Maps. You won't be, Google Maps is to provide direction, but not using phone. And you see, distraction has resulted into so many deaths. It's not only using phone that is distracting, changing the CV of a car, chatting with the passenger to your right and the one at the back. So that people are driving. Kilo so. Oh, but the man has veered off. It's a distraction. Drinking water while driving. The law is very clear. Park. Observe your rest time. After 3-4 hours, you're supposed to park. In the process, disembark, check your tires, check everything, walk around, and continue. Even when you are looking at the issue of HSC, Dr. Tao will confirm, there is a principle norm at the global level. When you are holding meeting after 1.5 hours, there must be tea, coffee break. You must stretch your leg. But in Nigeria here, you sit from 10 o'clock till 7 p.m. That is why people are having disco party and all this kind of party. Then at the end of the day, they go to party again. So that is the problem. The law is very clear on all this. And the issue of seat belts, we should not compromise on it. It's something I want to appeal to all of us here today. We must promote usage of seat belts, especially the front seat belts. We recorded 90%. As per the last data, the rear seat belt, that is just about 40%. And no going back on the enforcement, because if there's a tire blowout and the vehicle somersaults, it is that belt that they call it, it's a restraint. Will restrain you from hitting the windscreen or hitting your head anyhow, and will preserve your life. Some people have died who have been alive if they have used the seat belt. That is one of the fundamentals we have. And the child restraint, this is one challenge we have with husband and wife. Me and my husband must sit on the front seat. You are a nursing mother. You carry the baby. You still want to sit on the front seat with your husband. When we stop some of them, especially when they are going to church, coming back from church, the way the woman will look at you like this, I will look at you as if they come it's a problem. A child under 12 is not supposed to sit on the front seat. That is why the law, child restraint seats, suppose we've promoted this, but then the issue of anko, the husband is wearing anko with the wife, they want to sit. We should purge ourselves of this monopolistic mentality and consider safety first, ladies and gentlemen. Let the baby sit at the back, strapped on the child restraint seat. You in front, belt up. You at the back, belt up. Peradventure, there is a problem. You are all strapped, you are protected. You will just sustain minor injury, maybe small cuts. But when you don't, that's how we lost the Minister for Labour, the Minister of State for Labour, Barrister Ocholi. It was a pathetic death. He died because the wife, the son, and the man, they didn't use it there. But the man, the driver, and the oddly policeman in front, they are alive today. The backup car, they used it there. The vehicle just rolled. Nothing happened. But the result vehicle somersaulted, was thrown off, the vehicle landed, and the three of them died, father, wife, and the son on the spot. Please, let's promote seat belts, especially the rear. We've achieved success story for the front one. Let's use the second one. Now, part of the things I'm talking about are the contemporary road safety endeavors. Look at the issue of driver's license and number plate productions. From 2015 to date, I think we've produced about 3.7 million driver's licenses and 1.861 million number plates. That is for vehicle registration, and this is still increasing. It's increasing in our own. Then international standard alignment, because Nigeria now we have acceded to the 6 conventions on road safety globally. We are the first in Africa to have acceded to this, and we are the 12th globally. And it's a landmark that Mr. President has done. This accession to the 6 UN conventions, as one is on road traffic signs and signals, 3 of them are on vehicles, the 3rd one is on road traffic, has made our driver's licenses to have this global acceptance. And that is why, as from hopefully by September now, if you want to make inquiries about your license, you must be paying, because nothing is free, even in Freetown. On the issue of license too, we already have, if you don't go through a driving school now, you cannot get your driver's license. And that is when you go through a driving school, it is the statutory responsibility of the vehicle inspection officers to test the driver before they obtain the license. We are making progress on this, but we still need to do more. We need to improve on our commitment. Without going through a driving school for would-be applicants today in Nigeria, cannot get, but we have a snag. There's a lot of integrity problem with the driving schools because they compromise, and it's a major Nigerian factor which we really need to address. On the issue of road safety biometrics to drive national security, we recover a lot of vehicles now because of the database. We have the national database for the driver's license, the national database for vehicle registration, and the offenders database. So far, through the database, about 235 vehicles suspected to have been stolen were recovered. I was just talking about the issue of driving school standardization program now. If you must go through a driving school, and we are commencing before, as supposed to have started this 1st of July, but I'm shifting it a bit to have a full integration. The penalty point system, which is the normal practice when you accumulate a level of points, you get the first warning, your license is suspended for 3 months, and the last one, your license is suspended for 1 year, you go back to driving school. But we still need to carry out a lot of reforms of these driving schools because there are integrity problems on this. So we believe if the driving schools can do what is expected, it will improve on the driving capability of Nigerians. So when you are referred back, that's why I'm encouraged in Lagos now. I've encouraged the Lagos State Driving Institute so that we use that when we refer drivers back, and we have encouraged all the states at least to set up a model driving schools. With that, I believe that will give us some mileage. I think so far the 2 slides following about to date about 385,000 applicants have been certified out of 501,399. We deal with the data, we have the data. The next one on the contemporary issues has to do with the Road Transport Safety Standardization Scheme. This one deals with the issue of operator standards, vehicle standards, and the driver standards. And if you look at the next slide, looking at the number of fleet operators registered, 533 certified to 425. That's the continuous thing, and in the different categories. This is part of the fleet operators. That means for all the fleet operators who have 5 vehicles and above, the law makes it compulsory for you to be registered. And further to this, you look at the cumulative there on the issue of traveling, the road safety improvement in fleet transport services. Compared till date, from the year 2018 to 2019, we have 1.2 billion vehicle kilometers covered against 819 till date for 2019, and other parameters on the slides there. I believe the convener of this will forward a soft copy of this presentation to all of you. But if you cite it well, because you cite it appropriately when you are using it. And the other things have to do with the nationwide integrated IT-based operations, online information verification platforms, nationwide network computerized call centers, and the point system which I've mentioned, and the number plate information capturing devices. The next slide speaks about the nationwide integrated IT base. FRSC is an IT-driven organization. We use e-applications to do everything. And that's why anywhere we go, we carry our load on our head to ensure that we do this. Look at the next slide. Everything we are doing, we are running the system online. I don't need to be in the office before the system is run. It's on auto run. Wherever we are, we run the system. And with the modern technology, you carry your iPad, your phone, you get all these things. So we have e-applications of about 20 applications which we are using. I don't need to be reading them one by one. Up to our exam is e-examination. You go to the exam hall with the desktop computers, and the exam is forwarded to you. So there's so much integrity in respect of this. The Pillar 5 of the Decade of Action for Road Safety deals with the issue of post-crash. This is one area we are really improved upon. We call them the ambulance points, we call them zebras. We have about 73 zebras and 26 roadside clinics. They are not the same. Roadside clinics is an intervention for areas where there's no hospital by government. We really have a problem which we have to address, the issue of primary healthcare system. If the primary healthcare system is working well, you don't need to go to teaching hospital for headache treatment, or you don't need to go to general hospital specialist. The doctor Taiwo will know. In UK, you have a lot of this primary healthcare equivalent. You meet your GP. It is only when the GP cannot solve your problem that they refer you to the next level. If that one cannot treat you, refer you to. By the time you go to a teaching hospital in UK, then you need prayer for your survivor, because only make case at it. So, but by the time you get there, that is when they will call people to now come and use it for practicals. Now ask you for the history of your great-great-grandfather. And what happened? How did your grandfather died? Because I know what I'm talking about. When I wanted to register for my health something, they said, what killed your grandfather? You know your grandfather? I said, yeah, what killed your grandfather? Then your maternal. Is your grandmother alive? How did she die? Then your father, is he alive? My father is late. What killed your father? If it's Nigeria that the doctor is asking about this, you say, and you're so really patient. But, you know, they need all those histories to know your problem. Those are the things. So we need to improve on our health. Then there's one novel approach we introduced, the national community. I saw dust, and I had to park, see him in the ditch. I had to carry him. And you're not in welcome. I still had to do my job because I'm to save lives. And so some of them will still remember this, those who started with us then. There was one Lebanese. He abused all of us. We were using radar gun, speed control. He overtook us at 140, bolted away. On the long bridge on Lagos, Ibadan, Lagos, he somersaulted. Before we got to General Hospital Keja, then he passed away. I felt so bad for this fine gentleman, but the life is lost. So what we try and do is we train the community, give them handsets, give them first aid bags. We were partnering with Shell before Shell pulled out. It's highly capital intensive. That's why I said at the beginning of my technical discussion, I don't say presentation, that road safety is highly capital intensive. So with this is a success story of the National Community Post-Crash Care. It's a success story. And I wish we can do this training for all the communities in Nigeria. Because it is when they get there, before road safety gets there. So, and if they don't handle these victims well, it becomes a problem for us. Then the issue of our call centers. We have a working call center. You can try also, when we finish, dial 122. One fine, loving voice, a female voice will come and say, this is Federal Road Safety Call. So when I finish my presentation and you have a short break, try the 122. If it's not working, call me back and say, but boy, you are lying. That is not working. Then we are integrating this. The 112 is about to commence full operations. I was having discussion in London over the weekend with NCC on this. They're about to flag off the 112. Now that's the national emergency number. 112, anywhere you are in this country, you dial 112, you get this. But it's going to be integrated into the 122 we have. So the next slide just shows the data in terms of road traffic responses. Then the specific interventions to which I've mentioned before, the use of drunk driving, traffic light violations, speeding, the use of mobile phone while driving, the overloading, and the seatbelt violations. And I've mentioned the issue of mental stability. We call it the emotional psychology test. You must go. And the issue of driving under the influence of drugs and alcohol, the permissible for Nigeria is 0.5 grams. That's what the act says. Because when you look at the effect of drugs and alcohol on driver, it's the vision, it's the judgment, coordination, and reaction of the driver. The next slide just shows the issue of the results of the interventions we already have on these things. I've explained, discussed the issue of child restraint. I don't need to flog this. And the outlook, we go to the data on road traffic outlook in Nigeria now. It's trending, but of recent it's going up again. We don't conceal data. We present it the way it is. And why the data seems as if it's increasing? No. The data management is being improved upon, so more areas is being captured. So let me give an example. When we started with 5 zones and nationwide, but today we have over 500 formations nationwide of all our formations here and there. So the level of coverage has really increased. And within the last 4 years, I think exponentially we've really done well. Just about a few weeks ago, we expanded with about 22 formations. So that means the level of data administration will also, so if more fund is provided, what we're supposed to do is to cover all the local governments, but I think we've just covered about nearly 300 now. Then the next slide just shows also the data from 2014 to 2018. And with this, the line graph shows the number of people killed on road traffic in Nigeria. Then we are ISO certified agency. Now we've transited again to ISO 9001-2015. This is a success story. We are the fourth globally that has this, and that is a success story which we must acknowledge. And we also have partnerships all over with the World Bank, with the UN's ECA, Economic Commission for Africa, the International Transport Forum, International Road Safety Organization, National Highway Transport Safety Administration, NTSB, TRB, SSAT, PRF, which I've mentioned earlier on. These are the 6 conventions of which Nigeria is leading in Africa that Mr. President had assented to, and this was deposited to the Chief Treaty Officer at the UN office last year, almost a year ago. So it's a success story. And the next slide shows about the 6 conventions. I don't need to read that one. When you get a copy, then you can look at it. And with the domestication of the UN conventions, we produce road science now. That is why we are partnering with the construction companies to be able to do what is expected. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we believe that the low and middle income countries bear the greatest burden of road traffic fatalities and injury, with Africa having the highest proportion. Fortunately, the continent and its member nations have realized these challenges and have taken both steps towards changing the narrative. Nigeria, on its part through FRSC, the lead agency, has implemented several evidence-based solutions to promote defensive driving, use of seatbelts, address speeding, and drunk driving, and is working with relevant agencies to make our roads and vehicles safer. In Nigeria, therefore, we can achieve a death-free travel experience, as road safety is everybody's responsibility. Good morning.
Quite awesome. Another round of applause for Marshal. That was